present for you today a dialogue between two characters who each play a prominent part in Christmas. In fact, at times, many people begin to merge them into one huge myth and have difficulty separating them in the back of their minds. Most of the conclusions to be drawn, you must draw yourself. I don't think they need much explanation.
My story begins in history. At least my predecessor, St. Nicholas, was a historical figure. St. Nicholas was an early Christian bishop who presided over Myra, a city in Asia Minor. Today in America, I am known as Santa Claus, and my story is a legend.
My story begins in history as well. In fact, quite a few thousand years before your story, Mr. Claus. My story has no actual place or time of beginning because I have always existed. I created space and time. My story took concrete shape in the lives of a people I chose, the Hebrew people. I was not just their bishop. I am who I am, Yahweh, God.
The most familiar story about me begins, 'twas night before Christmas.
The most familiar beginning line of my story is, in the beginning, God created the heavens and the earth. But tell us, Mr. Claus, about your predecessor, St. Nicholas.
Well, I don't resemble him much anymore. He was only a youth when he became a high church official and was known as the boy bishop. He loved children, I know that, but most of all, he was known for his generosity.
He was a person who knew how to give?
Yes, and he was the most popular saint in Christian history. He was the ultimate gift giver. He expected nothing in return for his good deeds.
He gave so that his right hand didn't know what his left hand was doing.
Yes, I guess so. Something like that anyway. There is a story of the 3 golden balls in sacks of gold which were thrown during the night in the deepest secrecy into the window of an impoverished household. His daughters had lived without hope for suitors. They had no dowry and dreaded a future as prostitutes.
Prostitutes? Huh. My son protected one once.
He did? Who's your son?
Go on with your story. I'll explain later.
Well, that's another fascinating story of St. Nicholas, begging grain from passing merchant ships to feed his starving people during a famine. Bishop Nicholas promised the sailors that he, at the final weighing in on their return home, not an ounce would be missing.
Sort of like feeding the 5,000.
What?
Oh, I'm sorry. Go on.
Like I said before, the bishop was a special friend to children and so baked the bread itself with sugar and spices from exotic lands and handed these breads to the children. Some American cookie cutters still show the pointed mitre of a bishop's cap.
Sounds vaguely like a ceremony my people call communion.
Robbers were of special concern to St. Nicholas. In fact, the association was natural that much later in England, thieves were referred to as clerks of St. Nicholas. There's a stained glass window in France showing the saint giving clemency to a thief.
Again, I am reminded of my son forgiving a repentant thief. They were crucified together.
Do you want to hear about St. Nicholas or not? There's another story about sailboat caught in a terrible storm. The sailors prayed for help, and a figure appeared giving courage and help with the sails and ropes. In an instant, the storm was calm. The ship came safely to harbor in Maura, and the sailors offered thanks in the church. There, they recognized it was Nicholas who saved them. They thanked him, but he told them to thank God.
Again, that sounds like a gospel rewrite. Tell me, how much of St. Nicholas is part of you, Santa?
Well, Dutch seamen took reports of the bishop's generosity back home to Holland. As a result, children began to receive presents at December 6th, the traditional appearance of St. Nicholas in Europe. Is that a saint riding a horse and carrying a basket of gifts for good children and birch rods for naughty children?
But you don't ride a horse in America, do you?
No, but I am not called St. Nicholas anymore. St. Nicholas was the name in Latin. In Dutch, it came up Sinterklaas. Eventually, Santa Claus came out of that.
But more than your name has changed. Why, you're a fat, jolly character that has taken over Christmas.
Well, when the Dutch came to America, they put together a more Dutch-American saint. He wore a broad-brimmed hat, smoked a long Dutch pipe, and they replaced his churchy robe with short breeches. Then the English interfered, and a man named Washington Irving pictured me as a jolly, chubby fellow riding through the air on sleigh with reindeer. But it was one of your guys who added the finishing touches.
My guys?
Yes, a minister who was a professor at General Theological Seminary in New York wrote a poem his children in December 1822. He called it A Visit from St. Nicholas. Later it became known as 'Twas the Night Before Christmas. His name was Clement C. Moore.
And that is the beginning line of your story. Well, there are a lot of parables between your St. Nicholas and the important teachings of my son.
Well, God, there's a lot of people who think you and I are a lot alike who know it's more than just the beginning lines in our stories. Take where we live, for example. At least you can find the North Pole on the map.
And heaven is harder to place, isn't it?
Right. And a lot of people don't think you're very up to date. They picture you as an old man with a beard.
And you're a jolly old man with a red coat and a beard. At least children can see you.
Kids write letters to me.
People say prayers to me, which often sound like letters to you.
I deliver gifts by reindeers and have elves help me.
I guess it's no harder to believe in reindeer flying than it is white-robed angels with wings.
Kids think I know everything, like if they've been bad or good just before Christmas.
They know I know everything too, only all year round.
No wonder kids are confused. God?
Oh, it isn't just kids who are confused, it's the grown-ups too.
Really?
Sure. Remember a while back I mentioned my son?
Yes.
Well, that's what Christmas was originally about, even before St. Nicholas's time. Nicholas was an Advent saint. His role was to remind people of me, of my generosity. I didn't just pass around toys or video games or aftershave. I have the ultimate gift. I gave my son. Nicholas taught people how to give through his great deeds. As many legends show us, he taught us how to give in secret with no thought of any return. So secretly, as my son said it, that the right hand doesn't know what the left hand is doing.
But unfortunately, a lot of people have forgotten that. Is that my fault?
I wouldn't place the blame on you entirely. Madison Avenue entered the picture. They watered down all the profound aspects of the powerful figure. In a sense, they dressed St. Nicholas and me in a red snowsuit. They changed his bishop's hat for your fool's cap and let you chuckle your way into the lives of many people. It's time my people reassessed what you have been allowed to become in their Christmas. Greed has taken over for generosity, while the rest of the world starves. They rush to make gimmicks and gadgets which fill their hearts, to fill the vacuum left when they've pushed me out. They listen to carols that leave me out and go to parties centered around a bowl of spirits instead of going to church where my spirit could fill them up.
Does that mean I have to be left out?
I think with some reminders about your purpose in Christmas, you could still fit in. But people will have to learn to think small. Instead of overwhelming their budgets and energies, they'll have to think in terms of lasting quality. This giant stuffed panda, given out of guilt and desperately purchased on Christmas Eve, has a questionable lasting value. If they could think more about my generosity and less about what a cheapskate Uncle Melvin is, they would be on the right track.
I'm interested in hearing more, but this is a busy night and I have to get going.
I know, that's the trouble. People are the same way. Just when they get close to really understanding Christmas, a lot of business interferes. They're so busy, they can't get close enough to the manger.
What manger?
Oh, a manger in Bethlehem where my son was born.
You let your son be born in a barn?
Why, yes, I did. But that wasn't the most amazing part. What really puzzles people is that he was born at all, because it meant me, God, the creator of time and space, all that was ever and ever will be, coming to earth as a man.
Why would you want to do that?
I love the world so much, I want to provide a way for my people to be spared the death they deserve. The only way was to sacrifice my son.
Boy, now I see what you mean about giving gifts. You really sent a gift.
Yes, I did. And some people believe in it, more than they believe in flying reindeer or elves or anything else. In fact, the people I call my people, they put their lives on the line and followed my son. For them, Christmas isn't just another holiday, it's a holy day. Well, Santa, you go ahead now and do your thing, and I'll do mine.
Mine's giving gifts. What's yours?
Saving lives.
Well, God, I'm glad for this opportunity to talk and learn more about who you are and what you've done. But I must be on my way, and so I wish your children of all ages a blessed Christmas, and to all a good night.